Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 2. Rudra Gitam Bhagavata
Rudragitam Bhagavatam
Stotram Sarve Prachetasa
Stotram Sarve Prachetashaha
Japantaste Tapaste Pur
Tapantaste Tapaste Pur
Varshanam Ayutam Jale.
Varshanam Ayutam Jale.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. All the Pracheta princes simply stood in the water for 10,000 years and recited the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva. So just a short recap. Since we are meeting after such a long time, the Prachetas, they were the sons of King Prachinabarhi. And before they took up the king, their duties, Prachinabarhi, he told them to go do the austerities. And so they go to Lord Shiva's abode. Very beautiful place. There was a beautiful description. And Lord Shiva instructs them in devotional service. He instructs them to engage in austerities for the pleasure of Krishna, engage in devotional service to Krishna. And he gave them wonderful, wonderful prayers to recite. So now we're continuing that they are standing in the water of the lake for 10,000 years and they're reciting the prayers. Of course, in the modern age, one may be amazed how the princes could stand in the water for 10,000 years. However, living within air or living within water is the same process. One simply has to learn how to do it. You know, there are many ascetics, yogis who can live within the water and do their austerity in the water. One of them is Saubhari Muni. You're going to hear about him also, that he was doing his meditation underwater. The aquatics live within water for their whole lifespan. Certain favorable conditions are created to enable them to live within water. In those days, however, people used to live for 100,000 years. Out of so many years, if one could spare 10,000 years, for the sake of austerity, he would be assured of success in his future life. This was not very astonishing. Although such a feat is impossible in this age, it was quite possible in Satya Yuga. So because Satya Yuga, they were living for 100,000 years, so they could do meditation for 10,000 years. Here we barely live for 100 years, and also our minds are so disturbed. We are barely able to do any meditation. And that's the reason the sacrifice which is given in this age of Kali is the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So if we at all want perfection, we want liberation, we chant the holy name. Prachina Barisham Shata.
Prachina Varisham Shataha
Karmasva Asakta Manasam.
Karmasva Asakta Manasam
Naradyo Dhyatma Tattvagya.
Naradyatma Tattvatyam
Kripalu Pratya Bodhayat.
Kripalu Pratyabodhaya.
While the princes were undergoing severe austerities in the water, their father was performing different types of fruitive activities. At this time, the great Saint Narad, master and teacher of all spiritual life, became very compassionate upon the king and decided to instruct him about spiritual life. As pointed out by Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, Kevalya, or merging into the Brahman effulgence is just like going to hell. So here the Prachetas, the sons of King Prachinabari, they're doing austerity, they're glorifying Krishna. as the prayers given by Lord Shiva, but their father, he was doing karmakanda activities, fruitive activities, activities which are performed for going up to the heavenly planets. So Narad Muni was seeing that and he's like, oh, but Prachinabhari is coming from such a great lineage of Dhruv Maharaj, and he's just doing this kind of austerities which is going to just take him to the heavenly planet. So it's very temporary. So he became compassionate. This is the nature of a Vaishnava, that he's very compassionate on us, us conditioned souls. And so Narad Muni went to give him transcendental knowledge. So Kaivalya merging into the Brahman effulgence is like going to hell. This is what is stated by Prabodhananda Saraswati. He was a dear associate of Lord Chaitanya. He similarly states that elevation to the upper planetary systems for the enjoyment of heavenly life is just so much phantasmagoria. This means that a devotee does not give any importance to the ultimate goal of the karmis and jnanis. So why is it phantasmagoria? Because it's just going to be gone in a short time, and we will find ourselves in the same position or in a worse position after the pious karma is finished. Sure, it can be for a very long time, but it finishes. Just like we go for a holiday. A holiday finishes, then we come back to work. So heavenly planets also, that time finishes. And then again we have to start back on this earth planet. The ultimate goal of the karmis is promotion to the heavenly kingdom, and the ultimate goal of the jnanis is merging into the Brahman effulgence. Of course, the jnanis are superior to the karmis, as confirmed by Lord Chaitanya. Why the jnanis are superior to the karmis? Because at least they have the understanding that I am not matter, I'm not the body, I'm spirit soul. They have knowledge of the spirit soul, and that's why they want to go into the Brahma Jyoti, Aham Brahmasmi, they say. So karmi means our understanding is I'm the body, I want to enjoy it to the best of my ability. Jnani is the understanding that, oh, I am not the body, but I am spirit soul. So, koti karma nishtha madhye eka jnani shrishta. One jnani or impersonalist is better than many thousands of fruitive actors. This is stated in Caitaniya Caritamita, Madhya Leela, chapter 19, text 147. Therefore, a devotee never enters upon the path of karma or elevation by fruitive activities. Narad Muni took compassion upon King Prachinabhari when he saw the king engaged in fruitive activity. In comparison to mundane workers, those who are trying to be elevated to the higher planetary systems by performing yagyas are undoubtedly superior. So what Prabhupada is explaining is, at least they are doing this sacrifices for going to the heavenly planets. So there is some sense of, oh, there is a higher authority. There's someone in charge, that I'm not in charge. So at least that understanding is higher than thinking they're not performing any sacrifice or religious ceremony. So in pure devotional service, however, both karma and jnana are considered bewildering features of the illusory energy. But the devotee, his goal is to revive his love for Krishna. So the devotee, he engages in bhakti, he's hearing and chanting, and he's engaging in the activities of devotional service, not to gain anything, but for the pleasure of Krishna. So that is pure devotional service. Because he understands that that is the eternal position. He understands that even if he goes to the higher planets, it's going to be temporary. Even if he goes to the Brahman effulgence, it will be temporary. So the devotee wants to make a permanent solution. He wants to be situated in his eternal position. So he engages in bhakti. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Shreyastvam katamadrajan
Shriyastvam katamadrajan
karmanatmana ihase
karmanatmana ehase
dukkha hani sukha vapte
dukkha hani sukha bhakti
shreyastanneha chesyate.
Shriyastaniha chesyate.
Just give me a moment. Just one. So translation, Narad Muni asked King Prachina Barishat, my dear king, what do you desire to achieve by performing these fruitive activities? The chief aim of life is to get rid of all miseries and enjoy happiness. But these two things cannot be realized by fruitive activity. So we all want to be eternally happy. We always want to be happy and we don't want to get in misery. So Narad Muni is saying, but you can't get that by doing fruitive activity, means doing like wanting to enjoy the result of the actions. In this material world, there's a great illusion which covers real intelligence. A man in the mode of passion wants to work very hard to derive some benefit, but he does not know that time will never allow him to enjoy anything permanently. So even our enjoyment is temporary. Time takes away everything from us. Compared with the work one expends, the gain is not so profitable. That, we have to really work very hard to get some enjoyment. We really have to work. Sometimes we don't even understand how hard we are working to get that enjoyment. So even if it is profitable, it is not without its distresses. If a man is not born rich and he wants to purchase a house, cars, and other material things, he has to work hard day and night for many years in order to possess them. Thus, happiness is not attained without undergoing some distress. So that's our experience, no? That we really have to work hard to get some kind of enjoyment. Actually, pure happiness cannot be had within this material world. If we wish to enjoy something, we must suffer for something else. On the whole, suffering is the nature of this material world, and whatever enjoyment we are trying to achieve is simply illusion. So we are trying to enjoy because enjoyment is the nature of the soul to be happy. Ananda Mayobhyasat, the soul, we are always full of happiness. So we want to enjoy. It's just right now, we are not understanding how to enjoy in the proper way because we are thinking we are the body. So we are thinking we will be able to enjoy with the body. We have forgotten that, we are the souls and that we need to enjoy on the spiritual platform. So after all, we have to suffer the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. We may discover many fine medicines, but it is not possible to stop the sufferings of disease or death. We can see that there's so much more medicine now available than before. But of course, they help us. They really help us, to have better quality of life. But we can't stop the diseases from coming. We stop one kind of disease, there's another disease that will come. And even if we stop all the diseases from coming, we cannot stop death. And death is going to come one day. Actually, medicine is not the counteracting agent for either disease or death. On the whole, there is no happiness in this material world, but an illusion person works very hard for so-called happiness. Indeed, this process of working hard is actually taken for happiness. This is called illusion. So the process of working hard is actually taken for happiness. We don't understand that we are actually suffering. And we are saying that I'm enjoying, and that is our illusion. Therefore, Narad Muni asked King Prachina what he desired to attain by performing so many costly sacrifices. Even if one attains a heavenly planet, he cannot avoid the distresses of birth, old age, disease, and death. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka, that, from the ant, from the lower planetary system to the right up to Brahmalok, there is places of misery. So there is birth, death, old age, and disease, even in the heavenly planets. Not that one goes to the heavenly planet, that one is not going to have any misery there, or one is not going to die. No, even in heavenly planets there is death, because it's still within the material world. So the laws of material nature apply. Someone may argue that even devotees have to undergo many distresses in executing austerities and penances connected with devotional service. Of course, for the neophytes, the routine of devotional service may be very painful, but at least they have the hope that they will ultimately be able to avoid all kinds of distresses and achieve the highest perfectional stage of happiness. For the common karmis, there is no such hope, because even if they are promoted to the higher planetary systems, they are not guaranteed freedom from the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. So Prabhupada is saying, yeah, so one may argue that even the devotee is suffering. It's not that the devotee is not going to get diseases, or he's not going to get old, or he's not going to die. But at least the devotee has the hope that he'll go back home, back to Godhead, no? He'll go back to Golok Vrindavan. Over there is no birth, death, old age, and disease. But if we just do activities and we want to enjoy the result of that activity, that will continue to keep us here in the material world. Then we will continue in this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Even Lord Brahma, who is situated in the highest planetary system, Brahmalok, has to die. Lord Brahma's birth and death may be different from an ordinary man's, but within this material world, he cannot avoid the distresses of birth, old age, disease, and death. If one is at all serious about attaining liberation from these miseries, he must take to devotional service. So if we at all want a permanent solution to our distress, our suffering, then must take to devotional service. Krishna says that those who surrender unto him, to them this entire material world, they can cross the material world easily. Devi hi shagunamai mam maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam taranti te. Those who have surrendered to Krishna, very easily they can cross this material ocean. So this is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So, Krishna is telling Arjuna that one who understands Krishna's position, that Krishna is transcendental, Krishna's form is transcendental, Satchit Ananda, Krishna's activities are transcendental, Krishna's pastimes are transcendental. And if one can understand this, one who knows this, then to him is instant liberation. No need to come back to the material world again. He goes back home, back to Godhead. Thus, after attaining full Krishna consciousness, the devotee does not return to this material world after death. He goes back home, back to Godhead. That is the perfect stage of happiness, unblemished by any trace of distress. So, Vaikuntha, the spiritual sky, is a place where there is no misery, there's no distress, there's no pain, there's no suffering. It's completely ananda, blissful, happy. And Krishna is saying, just try to understand that my appearance, my activities, they are transcendental, and you can come back home. Because we think, oh, Krishna he seemed like me, it's just maybe some mistake or something. No, Krishna is transcendental, he's God. His form is transcendental. And the more we hear and chant, the more we will be able to understand Krishna's position. Rajovacha
Rajovacha
na janami mahabhaga
na janami mahabhaga
param karma paviddhati
param karma pavittadi
bruhi me vimalam jnanam
Dehi me vimalam jnanam
yena muchyeya karmabhi.
yena mucheya karmabhi.
The king replied, O great soul Narad, my intelligence is entangled in fruitive activities. Therefore, I do not know the ultimate goal of life. Kindly instruct me in pure knowledge so that I can get out of the entanglement of fruitive activities. So here, Prachinabhari, he's being very honest. He's humbly admitting, yes, I don't know what's the goal of life. So you please tell me. Shri Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Satsanga chari kaino asate vilas, te karane lagila ye karma bandha fas. As long as a person is entangled in fruitive activities, he is bound to accept one body after another. This is called karma bandha fas, entanglement in fruitive activities. We do some action because we want to enjoy the reaction. Whether we really enjoy or not, that's another thing. But our intention is always, let me do this, I'll be happy. Let me do that, I'll be happy. Of course, we need to be happy. It's our need. But only thing is we have to understand how can we truly be happy. That is what we need to understand. It does not matter whether one is engaged in pious or impious activities, for both are causes for further entanglement in material bodies. By pious activities, one can take birth in a rich family and get a good education and a beautiful body. But this does not mean that the distresses of life are ultimately eliminated. By doing pious, we do some dan punya, as we say, or some charity, austerity. We do that. And what is the result? Is that we'll get birth in heavenly planets or get birth in a rich family or, all those opulences. So, but then that will still keep us in the material world. We still continue in the material world. In the Western countries, it's not unusual for one to take birth in a rich aristocratic family, nor is it unusual for one to have a good education and a very beautiful body. But this does not mean that Westerners are free from the distresses of life. We can see that even someone may be very beautiful or someone may be very rich, it doesn't mean that there's no suffering. The suffering is going to come in one form or the other. So although at the present moment, the younger generation in Western countries has sufficient education, beauty, and wealth, and although there is enough food, clothing, and facilities for sense gratification, they are in distress. Indeed, they are so distressed that they become hippies, and the laws of nature force them to accept a wretched life. Thus they go about unclean and without shelter of food, and they are forced to sleep in the street. It can be concluded that one cannot become happy by simply performing pious activities. That when the hippie era was going on, they were coming from good families, they had everything, and yet they gave up. And then again, the distress comes, no? Because if you're sleeping on the road or there's not enough food. So it can be concluded that one cannot become happy by simply performing pious activities. It is not a fact that those who are born with a silver spoon in their mouth are free from the material miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. The conclusion is that one cannot be happy by simply executing pious or impious activities. Because we are thinking that, oh, we understand, okay, impiously, I should not act impiously. Why? Because it's sinful, it's harming others, and it's harming myself eventually because I will get suffering reaction. So, but we may think, let me act piously so that I can get pious results, so that I can enjoy, so that I can be happy. But Krishna himself is saying that from lowest planet to the highest planet, there is place of misery. We may go to higher planets by doing pious activity, but still there's misery there too. Such activities simply cause entanglement and transmigration from one body to another. Narottam Das Thakur calls this karma bandha fast. King Prachane Barishat admitted this fact and frankly asked Narad Muni how he could get out of this karma bandha fast, entanglement in fruitive activities. This is actually the stage of knowledge indicated in the first verse of Vedanta Sutra, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. The Vedanta Sutra begins with this aphorism that now we have this human life, let us begin into the inquiry of the supreme truth. When one actually reaches the platform of frustration in an attempt to discharge karma bandha funds, inquires about the real value of life, which is called Brahma Jigyasa. The truth, not the relative truth. What we see, what we understand is relative truth. It's cold one day, it's hot another day. COVID, there was lockdown, but now there isn't. So relative truth. Things change. So in order to inquire about the ultimate goal of life, the Vedas Mundaka Upanishad 11.2.12 enjoin Tad Vijnanartham Sagurum Eva Vikachit. In order to understand the transcendental science, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. The Mundaka Upanishad is saying this. That we want to understand transcendental subject matter, we go to a spiritual master who is bona fide, who is representative of Krishna. Just as we want to become expert in any field, we want to become doctor, we go to a medical university, we want to become engineer, we go to an engineering university to learn from the teacher. Similarly, if we want to understand spiritual knowledge, transcendental knowledge, we go to the pure devotee. So, any questions or comments till now? Or did you want to add anything?
So now that we are trying to get the knowledge also, is that the same as?
Yes, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. We are hearing the same transcendental knowledge. We are hearing it in the disciplic succession. We are hearing it from Prabhupada, a bona fide spiritual master. Yes. So King Prachina Barishat found the best spiritual master, Narad Muni, and he therefore asked him about that knowledge by which one can get out of the entanglement of karma bandha fast fruitive activities. This is the actual business of human life. Actual business of human life. business to be busy. We are busy doing so many things. But the real business is to engage in devotional service. But we want to do everything else except that. So jivasya tattva jigyasa nartho yasceha karmabi. As stated in the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1.2.10, a human being's only business is inquiring from a bona fide spiritual master about extrication from the entanglement of karma bandhavas. And how can I get out of this material world of birth and death? So, reading on, Griheshu Kuta Dharmeshu
Eshu Kuta Dharmeshu
Putra Dara Dhanarthadi
Putra Dharadhanarthadi
Na Param Vindate Mudo
Param Vindate Mudo
Brahmyan Samsara Vartmasu.
Brahman Samsara Vartamasu.
Those who are interested only in a so-called dutiful life, namely remaining as a householder, entangled by sons and a wife, and searching after wealth, think that such things are life's ultimate goal. Such people simply wander in different types of bodies throughout this material existence without finding out the ultimate goal of life. Those who are too much attached to family life, which consists of entanglement with wife, children, wealth, and home, are engaged in Kuta Dharma, pseudo duties. Prahlad Maharaj has likened these pseudo occupational duties to a dark well, Andhakupam. Prahlad has purposefully spoken of this dark well because if one falls into this well, he will die. He may cry for help, but no one will hear him or come to rescue him. So does it mean that we should not do our duty, whatever duties we have to our spouse or children or family or society or community? No, we do. We have to do all our duties. Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, do your duty, but do it for his satisfaction, for satisfaction of Krishna, offering the result of our activities to Krishna. The words Brahmyan Samsara Vartmasu are significant. In Caitaniya Caritamita Madhya 19.151, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very clearly explains Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva. All living entities are wandering in different types of bodies throughout different planets. And if in the course of their wanderings they come in contact with a devotee by the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their lives become successful. So Sanatan Goswami was speaking to Lord Chaitanya. He was asking, inquiring, and Lord Chaitanya says that we living entities, we are actually wandering from one universe to another, wandering about. But by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, one gets devotional service. So they come in contact with the devotee by the direction of Supreme Personality of Godhead, and their lives become successful. Even though King Prachina Parishat was engaged in fruitive activity, the great sage Narad appeared before him. The king was very fortunate to be able to associate with Narad, who enlightened him in spiritual knowledge. It is the duty of all saintly persons to follow in the footsteps of Narad Muni and travel all over the world to every country and village just to instruct illusion persons about the goal of life and to save them from the entanglement of karma bandha, fruitive activity. So this is the pure devotee. Narad Muni is a pure devotee, and he's going about everywhere, different planets, different, it's not only one planet, he's doing interplanetary travel. He's going to so many different places. Why? He's singing and chanting the glories of Lord Krishna. He wants everyone to become a devotee. So for our benefit, he is traveling. For our benefit, the devotees are coming to give us devotional knowledge, this transcendental knowledge. So then reading on. Narad Uvacha
Uvacha
Bobo Prajapate Rajan
Bhogo Prajapate Rajan
Pashun Pashyad Tvayadvare
Pashun Pashya Tvayadvare
Samkhya Pitan Jiva Sangan
Samgyapatan Jiva Sangha
Nirgranena Sahasrasha.
Nirgranena Sahasrashaha.
The great Saint Narad said, O ruler of the citizens, my dear king, please see in the sky those animals which you have sacrificed without compassion and without mercy in the sacrificial arena. Because animal sacrifice is recommended in the Vedas, there are animal sacrifices in almost all religious rituals. However, one should not be satisfied simply by killing animals according to the direction of the scriptures. One should transcend the ritualistic ceremonies and try to understand the actual truth, the purpose of life. So sure, the Vedas, they do deal with this animal sacrifices for going up to the heavenly kingdom. But these sacrifices are banned. We are prohibited to do this kind of sacrifices in the age of Kali. Any kind of animal sacrifice is prohibited. The only sacrifice that is recommended in this age of Kali is the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Narad Muni wanted to instruct the king about the real purpose of life and invoke a spirit of renunciation in his heart. Knowledge and the spirit of renunciation, Gyan Vairagya, are the ultimate goal of life. Knowledge and spirit of renunciation. So Bhagavatam says, by engaging in devotional service, one automatically gets transcendental knowledge and automatically one gets detached from the material world. So without knowledge, one cannot become detached from material enjoyment. And without being detached from material enjoyment, one cannot make spiritual advancement. So without knowledge, one cannot be renounced. And without being renounced from material enjoyment, one cannot make spiritual advancement. So when we engage in devotional service, automatically it happens. The more we hear, the more we chant, the more knowledge we get, and the more we can get detached from the material world. Karmis are generally engaged in sense gratification, and for this end, they are prepared to commit so many sinful activities. Animal sacrifice is but one such sinful activity. Consequently, by his mystic power, Narad Muni showed King Prachina Barishad the dead animals which he had sacrificed. So Narad Muni, he has all these powers, That's wonderful powers. Ete tvam sampratikshante
Ite Tvam Sampratikshante
smaranto vaishasam tava
Naranto Vaishasam Tava
samparetam ayakotesh
Samparitam Ayakute
chindanti utthita
Yuntanti Utitamanyavaha.
All these animals are awaiting your death so that they can avenge the injuries you have inflicted upon them. After you die, they will angrily pierce your body with iron horns. Narad Muni wanted to draw King Prachina Barishad's attention to the excesses of killing animals and sacrifices. It is said in the Shastras that by killing animals in a sacrifice, one immediately promotes them to a human birth. Similarly, by killing their enemies on a battlefield, the Kshatriyas who fight for a right cause are elevated to the heavenly planets after death. So the Vedas are saying, you perform some animal sacrifice, the animal, he gets a human body. Otherwise he has to go through the evolution of so many millions of bodies to come to the human birth. But like this, when the animal was sacrificed before, in the earlier ages, he could immediately get a human body. And Kshatriyas, of course, when they are dying in battle, they go to the heavenly planets because they're doing the duty. Fight for a right cause, that also. It's not unnecessarily killing or being terrorizing another. In Manu Samhita, it is stated that it is necessary for a king to execute. To execute a murder so that the murderer will not suffer for his criminal actions in his next life. So this is what Manu Samhita is saying. Somebody commits a murder and they were killed just so that this karma can stop, so that they don't have to suffer very, very bad reactions in future. On the basis of such understanding, Narad Muni warns the king that the animals killed in sacrifices by the king await him at his death in order to avenge themselves. Narad Muni is not contradicting himself here. Narad Muni wanted to convince the king that overindulgence in animal sacrifice is risky because as soon as there is small discrepancy in the execution of such a sacrifice, the slaughtered animal may not be promoted to a human form of life. So the Vedas are saying you do animal sacrifice and you will also go to the heavenly planet and the animal will get a human body. So why is Narad Muni saying here that the animals are suffering and, they're waiting for Prachina Barisa to die and they're going to take revenge? Because sometimes there can be errors. There can be a mistake. When the mantras are not chanted properly, then it can have an adverse reaction, a different reaction. And so the animal may not get a human body. So consequently, the person performing sacrifice will be responsible for the death of the animal just as much as a murderer is responsible for killing another man. When animals are killed in a slaughterhouse, 6 people connected with the killing are responsible for the murder. The person who gives permission for the killing, the person who kills, the person who helps, the person who purchases the meat, the person who cooks the flesh, and the person who eats it, all come entangled in the killing. So all 6 people, then they share the karma. So Narad Muni wanted to draw the king's attention to this fact. Thus, animal killing is not encouraged even in a sacrifice. So Narad Muni is saying, don't unnecessarily do these sacrifices, You're killing these animals, they're not able to get the human body. Then what is the result? And of course, as we said earlier, that in this age of Kali, animal sacrifices are prohibited. One is not allowed to do animal sacrifices. The only sacrifice that one can engage in this age of Kali is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So is it okay if we stop here for today?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Listening and joining in.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.